Well, for more on manga's boom in China, we're joined by Nick Stember from San Francisco. He's a translator and historian of Chinese comics. Welcome to the broadcast. Is manga making a comeback in China? And if so, why is this? And is it because of the internet, frankly?
Thank you for having me, Susan. Yes, I believe manga is having a comeback in China, and I think the internet is having a big part to do with that comeback.
Who are the majority readers of China's manga? Tell us some of their stories and why they're so interesting.
Well, I think the creators, as we saw in the report that was just aired, I think, the creators are a lot of young people who are trying it out. Many of them are working in careers in other industries. So a lot of the creators that I've met as a translator are people who, are working maybe as graphic designers, they're working as web programmers, they're working in a variety of careers, and the manga that they're creating is actually something that they're doing on the side as a kind of a side deal to see if they can actually succeed as creators. So it's very similar to what you're seeing with online literature earlier, and now it's moving more into manga and even into animation. So it's very fascinating what's happening.
It's really, really beautiful work. We're told that in a survey targeting about 33,000 Chinese fans with multiple answers allowed, iResearch actually found that to the question, what sort of works do you regularly watch or read, 82% answered Japanese anime, and 66% Japanese manga. Tell us more about this. Why do they like Japanese manga more?
Well, I think Japanese manga, a big part of the reason is if you look at the way that comics and animation first entered China, a lot of it, people think of today when they think of animation and comics in China, they like to think of it as being all Japanese. But China actually has a very long history of comics and animation that goes all the way back to the 1920s, 1930s. But what ended up happening is that in the 1980s, things really shifted towards a more popular format, and that's when you really had the influx of Japanese animation and comics. And so I think young people today, they kind of grew up watching shows like Dragon Ball and Sailor Moon and things like that. And so now they're kind of paying homage to the things that they really liked, that they were fans of when they were younger.
You talked about China, Nick. What about worldwide? How popular?
Worldwide. Well, of course, I think manga worldwide is incredibly popular, and I know it's one of the things that I actually struggle with the most as a translator of Chinese comics is that it's very difficult to get people to be interested in Chinese comics in comparison to Japanese comics, manga, which everybody knows. So Chinese comic is manhua. Manhua is a much smaller market. It's a harder sell. But I think that as more creators kind of enter this sphere, I think there's going to be more and more out there that's available, and people are going to start discovering these things as they get translated, and even as fans who maybe speak Chinese will share these online and talk about them with their friends.
How big of a market is there for this, do you feel like, moving forward?
How big of a market? I think it's difficult to put a number on exactly how big of a market it would be moving forward. I don't study the economic side of things as much, but I would definitely say that moving forward, I think that studios are going to be looking more and more for niche products, and I think that manga represents a very niche product that appeals to a specific group of people that I think bigger productions maybe don't appeal to as much. So things like the Marvel movies are a good example of IP property that has a broad appeal. I think Japanese manga and anime is something that maybe has a more narrow appeal, but the people who are into it are very dedicated to it as fans. So I think that where you might not have as much breadth, you have a lot more depth.
Well, Nick Stember, we certainly appreciate your expertise, and thank you for bringing this into a much clearer understanding for all of us. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Susan.
From San Francisco.